Hi, I'm Carrie Grubb, and I am going to share today with you a concept on healthy families that I learned from an event I went to. A man by the name of James MacArthur spoke. He's a psychiatrist, and he shared some of his insights, and I've come up with this from his little talk. I want to share it because it was a huge aha for me. I was been praying a lot for my family and wanting to be happier and make some changes, and I really felt like this was an answer to my prayer. So first he started out on families, and he talked about these two words, dysfunctional and functional. And they've always been kind of disturbing words because the labeling and stuff just bothered me. And what he shared was that first we need to know the definitions of what those are, but the second is to understand that we're not one or the other, that every family has problems, and really it's just how we react to those problems determines where we fall on actually a scale. So I've drawn a scale here. So depending, how you handle a problem, you might, fall in different parts. So let's define it first. So dysfunctional basically means that you're reactive, and right hand in hand when we react, when we freak out, or we basically draw in chaos, and that's kind of where my family is some of the time, and so hence the praying, right? But so basically it's just you react in the moment. You remain in chaos. You don't choose to get out of chaos, or else you numb or you lash out. Those are some definitions of dysfunctional. Functional is, of course, the opposite. So it's proactive. This is a healthy family. What a healthy family would do, they've been building a foundation, enabling them to think ahead. Now, of course, we don't know what problems are going to occur, but by how our relationships are already in our family, how strong they are, and different things we work on as a family, it helps us to be ready for those problems. Looking for solutions is another definition, and then continue to move forward versus the numbing out option. So when a problem occurs, then, depending on which way you handle the problem will determine where you fall on the scale and how close you are to functional versus dysfunctional. And so really, the key is to learn how to be more proactive, right? To be more of a functional, have functional habits so that you react more proactively when a problem occurs. Hence, the second part is how to be more proactive. So he talked about this, that we need to assess where we are before we can move ahead. If you don't know where you are, there's no way for you to see where you could possibly go. And that this is what proactive families do. So he gave two tools, don't want the glare on there, two tools that are essential to enhancing becoming a proactive family. And the key is using these tools, but to be consistent with these tools. So the first one is a time and a place to assess. And honestly, weekly. Weekly is the best consistency plan in order to do this. And there's two parts to it. One is called family discussion time. This is for the adults in your home. So the parents, or if you're a single parent, then the single parent. It's time where you sit down, say Tuesday at 9 every week is going to be family discussion time. And it's and I'll show you some activities that you would do in the discussion time, but where you assess your family. And the second the second one is a family council. This would include your children and to get their perspective on things. But this is different than this. And this, maybe won't be weekly. This could be bi-weekly, monthly, whatnot. But this one includes the children. This has to happen first. So we're going to talk about this more today. And the second part of the tool is to measure, to use a measurement scale of some kind. And he suggests the 10 scale, which I love. I love it. I don't know if you've ever been to the hospital or to a doctor with some kind of pain issue. And they sit you down, they show you a chart, and they say, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, how bad's the pain? Because they want to determine, do we need to get you an x-ray? Do we, or else, is this something that's not so as minor, it's not as bad as you think it is. Also to determine where you're at, your pain level is, so they can give you medication and then see where, if it's, coming down from the scale versus it hurts and it doesn't hurt. There's no black and white. It's slowly, just showing the progression in things. So the 10 scale is awesome. And I'm going to show you more about the 10 scale when we talk about what to do at family discussion time. You like my modern technology? The whiteboard. Love the whiteboard. Okay, so family discussion time. Some things to do at it. So first one that would be really helpful is to define proactive. Define what a healthy family looks like. So you would sit down with your spouse. And again, I have friends who are single parents, and I love hanging out with them and having really good discussions. So you can find some adult friends or your parents, the grandparents of the children, or siblings, or someone that's close to you, to sit down and have some good discussions in this way. So sit down and talk about, what do healthy families look like? Proactive families. What do proactive families do? What do healthy families think about? And what do healthy families care about? And coming up with a good description of what you feel they do. And then that helps you project what you'd like your family to look at doing as well. Then it's time to evaluate using the measurement system of the 10 scale. So the first thing you want to do is ask yourself, how are we doing as a family? And at this point, if you have a spouse, you both do it separately. I mean, you're in the same room together. It's Tuesday night at 9. You're in your bedroom, door shut, having this discussion, right? And I would take a piece of paper. Tim would take a piece of paper. And we would ask ourselves this question, on a 10 scale, where do I think our family is at right now? And I would write down my number, and he would write down his. And then we would share and talk about and see, if we have the same perspective, first of all, and then discuss why we believe our family is at where it's at. And, if we disagree on the number, it would be really good to have that discussion for that purpose. If we agree on the number, then we can easily name the reasons we are where we are so that we can move forward. Second thing is to write down what you believe your 3 top priorities are as a family. And kind of fun, you first do this, again, separately. So I'm on my piece of paper, Tim's on his piece of paper, we write it down. Then we compare. And, in a land of chaos, I'm imagining that my top 3 priorities would be totally different than Tim's. And then you sit down and discuss what those priorities are, and kind of work towards having some mutual priorities. That's also fun when you get to the family council portion and you do it with your kids. What do you think our 3 priorities are in our family? And to get their perspective of what they think the priorities are. But we'll talk about family council another time. So after this, after you've evaluated your family, then you move on to the key relationships in your family. So here I've written down Tim, Elijah, Emmy, and Ellie. These are my kids and my spouse. And you're going to go through these 3 pieces. You're going to use a 10 scale and rate your relationship individually. So I'm over, again, my corner. Tim's in his. Tim would also have a C here for Carrie instead of a T for Tim. And he'd be over there ranking, and I would rank mine. So like I'd say, okay, I feel like mine's a 7 with Tim right now. Elijah, darn it. It's a 4. Emmy, that's pretty good. I'm gonna go 8. Ellie, I'd say it's 7. And then, depending how big your family is and how much you want to work on, but I would just go straight to the problem. The one I want to work on the most, which would be the lowest score. So Elijah, I have a 4. And the next thing is to write down 2 words that describe this 4, or how I feel about my relationship with Elijah. So I might say it's distant, and there's a lot of anger. It really isn't. He's an awesome kid. But anyway, and we get along really well. Just want to point that out. But anyway, haha. So doing this first, and then Tim and I swap. So I will then turn around and look at what I think Tim's numbers are with each of the kids, and he would do the same for me. He would give his perspective of what, oh, I'm sorry, before you give each other the papers, then I turn around and I do it for Tim. Okay, what do I think Tim's relationship is with Elijah? What do I think it is with Emmy? And what do I think it is with Ellie? And I would write his numbers down, right? This is Tim's scores, you know, so I might say, oh, they have a great relationship. They talk really well to their, you know, whatever. And Emmy, oh, I think it's this. And Ellie, yeah, probably the same, whatever it may be. I rate Tim with the children, and he rates me with the children. And then from there, we have a great place to start for a discussion. And also with these words, you know, if he gives a low score also, then him giving the words, then I get his perception of what Elijah and I's relationship looks like to him. And then I have a base to start from and a place to progress. You know, I would talk about distant. Well, obviously, I need to have better conversations with him. So what I would probably consider doing is I need to spend more time with Elijah when it's not under duress. We need to go do something fun together. We need to go do something light and just try to make the distance smaller, right? So then after that, after the relationships, we're looking at those things to set some standards there. Then the next would be move down to each individual member and different topics. So you might want to talk about where each child is academically, where they are spiritually, socially. And I put other, just like if they're into tumbling or piano or sports of some kind, you know, discuss where they are there. And again, the 10 scale is an awesome place to begin because it gives you a base, gives you where they're at, and then it's easier to describe. It's easier to come up with, you know, how to help them progress and how to be more proactive. So this is the beginning. This is what a great way to become proactive, more proactive. And super excited about using these tools. I think that they'll be very helpful, and I hope they'll be helpful for you too. And I believe that families are number one here on the planet. I'm grateful to God that He gave us families so that we could learn from one another, buoy each other up, and just have someone who has our back. And someone to love just extra special, but families are awesome. And I hope your family is a great one too. So thanks for letting me share with you.